What's up, everybody? I'm back. Back in my kitchen, back in Toronto. How you living, huh? I play this all the time, but you know. Listen to that beat, man. Listen how it just uplifts the mood, you know what I mean? That's hip hop, man. What Sexy Red record does that for you? Okay, what Larry June record does that for you? Alright? Come on, man. Rappers in the gutter. That's the problem. Them beats don't have no feeling. Okay? Hit Boy can't do this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? That gives you that and you feel like just good. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, you know the deal. So back in the city, a lot has happened since I left, and I'm back now. Just again, the biggest conflict in a while, certainly one of the most evil that I've seen in my lifetime is this Israel-Hamas thing. So I've learned a lot about that over the last month, really. Really, read a lot, I would say. Studied a lot of things, had some really fascinating conversations. It's really terrorism of the mind type shit, you know? You're really seeing jihadists, the Islamist jihadists, and they're linking up with the Marxists, and that's the shit we're seeing. I never really realized that was kind of what was going on with this woke Westerners who are all talking about free the oppressed and all that shit and giving cover for terrorists. It blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck? Well, like, how can you be an intellectual and wave pom-poms for Hamas? But then over time, I've realized that these are Marxists. And essentially what we've been dealing with in the last 5, 10, who knows, years is a certain sort of cultural Marxism that has come about, where everything is framed as oppressed versus oppressor. And the truth of the matter is that Marxism is dangerous. And if you look at the history of Marxism and the ideologies, it pretty much states that revolution against the oppressor must be violent. And so this is why, first of all, this is why anytime communism has been attempted, there's been massive death tolls, but that's beside the point. But the point is that it's a cover for violence. And that's why someone who claims to be an intellectual and claims to have morals can literally sit there and say that it's perfectly fine for Hamas or a bunch of jihadis to come in, kill X amount of civilians, rape, maim women and children, whatever. And that's justified because Jews are essentially the oppressor, right? They don't even think for a second that actually that's a human life, an unfair human life that's been taken and tortured. And that shouldn't happen to anybody, regardless of what you feel about them. But, that's the life of a goofy Marxist. I hate to see it. And I'm sure someone's going to watch this and go, but Tochi, you don't care about the children in Gaza. What about all the children that have been killed in Gaza? Well, I do care about them, to be honest with you. I care about them more than you do, which is why I hate the fact that their jihadi government put their lives at danger by doing stupid shit in the first place, of actually going in to kill a bunch of innocent Israelis, right? So again, all of this comes back to Hamas. It comes back to jihadi problems and jihadis making the lives miserable for everyone and their own people. And if you can't see that, you're probably a jihadi pom-pom waver, real talk. Or you're just too dumb to understand what's going on. And frankly, I can't really have these conversations with you. You know what I mean? You're a reprogrammed bot. And as Yasmine Mohammed, who I'm really following, an activist from Egypt, she's part Egyptian, part Palestinian, and who grew up, she grew up in Canada, but also lived in the Middle East for a while. And, as she says, it's like a lot of these people that have these knee-jerk accusations and the way that they talk about Jews and stuff like that, all this stuff is programming. They've been programmed to say this shit. You're not even talking to a human being at this point. You're talking to a bot, right, who has been taken over by terrorist programming, unfortunately. Right now we've got Hamas, they got hostages, and they're dropping teasers like, on some movie shit. Like, let's see what happens to, the hostages in 24 hours. We'll update you. Tune in, right? That's some depraved shit, okay? And that's who y'all are waving pom-poms for? I mean, it's ISIS shit. ISIS used to do this kind of stuff. And I'll be damned if I'm out here, giving excuses for ISIS. Like, what are we talking about? It's interesting because Yasmine Mohammed brought up a really good point about how, Middle Easterners like herself, who are reformed Muslims or even non-Muslims at this point, people who lived in the Middle East and have stories to tell about how bad it is in the Middle East when you're talking about jihadism and Islamism and all that shit, how they often get ignored and even hated on by so-called liberals in the Western world. And I was like, this sounds very familiar to me. Because when I tell people who have never left Brooklyn or have never left Toronto, yo, I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I think I know it's one or two things about the Quran, jihadism, Islamism, this whole shit. They look at it and go, Tochi, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. And at first it used to piss me off, but now I'm like, oh, it doesn't just happen to me. It happens to all kinds of people. It happens to Middle Easterners who, I don't even know Arabic. I've read the English version of the Quran, obviously. There are people who are born and raised in the Middle East who experience all the bullshit that we all experienced and we got out safely. They read and write Arabic. They know the Quran inside out. They can literally tell you, this part of the Quran says kill the infidels. And there is no there's no happy interpretation of that shit. And corny liberals will go, oh, but you're Islamophobic. And I'm sure that's not what it really means. Okay. Anyway, so that's what's been going on in the world. I advise you to really pay attention to it because there's a lot of parallels between this cultural Marxism, the way that essentially Islamists and Marxists, aka communists, obviously Russia, Islamists, Cuba, Venezuela, these people are all friends. Their leaders are all friends. I had a conversation with a Cuban guy about this, actually. It's really fascinating. And he was like, people forget that, these entities are homeboys and they all learn from each other and they're very good at propaganda. They're exceptional at it, especially because they're authoritarian and they take away freedom of speech. So you only get one narrative. Right? That's why, again, when I see these so-called quasi-intellectuals tell me about how Israel is an apartheid state and all that kind of goofy shit, I'm like, you're either an agent, paid agent, or you're just too stupid to understand what's going on and you fall for propaganda very easily. But moving on to what you really want to know about, which is Mos Def's opinion on Drake. I wasn't going to comment on this, even though it was trending. Shout out to Jared. He reached out to me at my Instagram handle at hiphoptochi. Sometimes I get messages from y'all. It's like y'all are just like, yo, Tochi, go out there and say some shit. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? I welcome any messages and things like that. So he was like, yo, OG, what you think about this? And honestly, I didn't even really want to talk about it, but I'm here. Let's dig into it a little bit, okay? The people aren't asking themselves the real question, in my opinion. The real question isn't about whether Drake is pop in 2024 and all that shit, okay? You know what the real question is? The real question is, why are we still talking about this 15 years later? You do realize we had this exact same conversation with this exact same intent 15 years ago. Best I Ever Had was out. Everybody was like, the intent to shit on Drake was there as well. Yo, Drake, he ain't really real hip hop, is he? And people had this conversation 15 years ago. So we didn't learn anything 15 years ago? Are we that stagnant where we literally recycle the same conversations and there's no progress on those conversations and no progress in artists that even come out new and run the game? The answer is yes. Yes, there's been no progress. Hip hop is stagnant as fuck. That just proves it to you right there and there. And the truth is, it's not stagnant because of Drake. It's stagnant because of you. You being obviously the collective listeners. You're stagnant. And I mean, the industry is of course stagnant. They're feeding you one thing, so all you know is one thing, all you request is one type of thing. I always thought it was really interesting how even at the time when Drake came out with Best I Ever Had, which is a dope song, I'm a Drake hater, OG Drake hater, and I thought this was a dope record. I loved this beat at the time, you know what I'm saying, and I thought the song itself was pretty good. It was one of the most hip-hop songs of 2009 or whenever this shit came out. And I think it's really interesting that people were even having that conversation about whether Drake is real hip hop or not in a sea of mediocrity where other people were making flat out pop or just bad hip hop, period. You know what I'm saying? And fast forward 15 effing years and it's still the same issue. You know, Drake's still one of the best artists out here, all things considered. I mean, he made The Shoe Fits, last year. That song was one of the better songs. Again, it's not great. Drake doesn't have to be great. But Drake just has to be better than most. Because everyone is, like most of these new dudes, the bar is so non-existent that they cannot lodge Drake out of where he's at. That's the problem. It's a huge issue. So, anyway, stagnant conversation. But then again, you've got a whole Tupac channel, right? The Art of Dialogue that literally talks about Tupac all day long. I don't even know how people can stomach that shit, to be honest with you. That's how stagnant hip hop is. Now we're getting, you get Tupac's gardener, someone that, was friends with Tupac's brother's wife, and give his perspective on Tupac and whether or not he thinks Biggie started the East Coast West, stagnant shit. So if there's a whole channel dedicated to this kind of behavior, absolutely, I'm not surprised that we're still having is Drake hip hop or pop conversations more than 15 years later. That's hip hop. It's stagnant. There should be a is Drake pop channel, frankly, and just have all quotes and just get randoms to come in and hate on Drake. I'm putting you on some jewels. Make that shit, send me a couple of percentages, okay? Oh my God. That shit's so weak. Mos Def, right? Mos Def's opinion, it matters. Again, proving that hip hop is stagnant. When you guys talk about how old heads are too old and they don't know rap, but of course you still beg for them to give their opinions because deep down you know that old heads know their shit. I always find that interesting. It's like, can't pick which one or the other. Is it that old heads are so irrelevant that they don't know enough about hip hop to give their opinion? Or is it that once old heads say something about an artist you don't like, it's now gospel? Which one is it? The truth of the matter is that, of course, Mos Def is a legendary rapper who's dropped legendary music. And his era, or that scene, I would say, that 90s, Nas, Jay, no one's done anything better than those guys in the grand scheme of things. We know this, they know this, you know this. And as long as you are happy with them just sitting at the top of this hip hop tree, they will continue to run rap and they will continue to be the kings. And you'll always have to go to them for opinions on rap and cosigns and the whole nine, right? I mean, Mos Def almost single-handedly co-signed Odd Future into existence, right? And this was 2008, 2009, and he was like years past his prime, respectfully, at that point. So again, Mos Def is still important. He can say something and it will go viral. Trinidad James, who came out after Mos Def, Trinidad James can give his opinion on Drake and no one will give a shit. What's the other guy that y'all used to tell me was dope? Young Thug. Young Thug could give his opinion. No one would give a fuck. Rich Homie Quan. All these guys, whatever, that people swore were the new school and swore they were real ill. No one cares what they think about anything. They've come and gone. But Mos Def is still here. That tells you something. I thought it was disingenuous, obviously, of the interviewer to ask Mos Def what he thought about Drake. Again, it's the same old attempt at Drake slander. It's corny at this point. But of course, again, when I look at these things, it shows me that rap is stagnant, like I've said, and that Kendrick and J. Cole and all these people you claim are dope have done absolutely nothing. Because it's not like they're not in the conversation. They haven't made music that has transformed rap for the better. So that's why interviewers don't remember them until it's time to just plug their music or something like that. Because frankly, why would we even be talking about Drake if Kendrick was really as great as people say he is, right? The interviewer would just be like, "Yo, I was listening to Good Kick, Mad City the other day, and I freaking love this record. What do you think about Kendrick Lamar?" And then most have been like, "Yo, that song so and so," and maybe even rap a couple of the bars or something because most actually took it in, right? And then they'd be talking about something like Dope, but they can't because again, no one of Drake's stature, especially these anti-Drakes that have come about, they have nothing to say and they've not done anything and they've made no impact on anything. So that's my opinion on it. I wish the lady actually asked Mos Def what she thought about ASAP Rocky because a lot of people might not realize, but ASAP Rocky and Mos Def go way back, right? This is apparently Mos Def's favorite song on Live Love ASAP at the time when he gave the interview. And I mean, I could see why. It's brilliant. But people might not remember like Pretty Flacko, Flacko Dante. The first time I actually remember sorry, not Mos Def, but the first time I remember ASAP even mentioning the word Flacko, I was like, oh, I haven't heard that. Did he take that from Mos Def? And then obviously I kind of found out a little bit later that they knew each other and that in fact, like Mos Def was at the Live Love ASAP album party. So he'd been knowing about ASAP Rocky. But again, it's not like he had Mos Def on the album or any of that shit. It's just, yo, you dope. Go out and do your own thing. And this is what I loved about Live Love ASAP, and I still listen to this shit. In fact, I've been listening to it a lot. So that's the thing with Rocky, man. Like Rocky just came through and amazing shit, like like they were grabbing Mobb Deep, Woo, Nas, 3-6 Mafia, Mos Def, just mixing and just making hip hop. No gimmicks, just straight hip hop, raw. Yeah, the connection, by the way, and I shared this interview in the community section, is the fact that Chase Infinite, who used to rap back in the day, I've shared like one of his songs from back in the day. I can't remember the name of it. It was like the Covenant. That's what it was. I heard that back in the day too. That's why it's interesting how rap and life just all kind of connects. But the point is, Chase Infinite, who's a hip hop dude, is ASAP Rocky's manager. And it turns out that Chase Infinite and Mos Def are very close friends, and that's how Mos was up on Rocky very early. It's industry shit. It's just relationships. But it just so happens that Chase was actually up on someone great as ASAP Rocky, and here we are, right? I want to talk about Live Love ASAP just a little bit because I've really been listening to this. I think partly because for me, obviously I'm on my Blood World shit, and Live Love ASAP remains the most influential tape to me in the last. I mean, I haven't heard a tape that blew me away rap-wise since Mad Villainy, to be honest with you. Like, and even that, I prefer this to Mad Villainy, even though Mad Villainy obviously got better rhymes. We're not even going to compare that shit. But in terms of my vibe, Live Love ASAP absolutely floored me at the time. I mean, I've talked about this all the time, about bass in particular. Like, I wrote a whole screenplay just like off. Like, I used to listen to bass obsessively, like when it came out. I was that floored by the fucking record. So the point is, I want to talk about just the sheer depth of what these guys, particularly Clams, was doing. This beat is just... Come on, man. When you listen to this type of shit, oh my God. Okay, so the reason why all entertainment to me is feeling very weak. Not most of it. There's still obviously people doing some pretty decent shit. I mean, I'm watching an anime right now called Frenin or some shit. It's about an elf that's like damn near immortal. Anyway, there's still people making some decent shit. And I'll talk about that another time. But in general, most stuff is extraordinarily stagnant, lame, corny, the whole nine, right? And it's because it has no depth. It's just vacuous bullshit. Okay, it's here today, gone tomorrow. No attempt at making anything that's gonna have any kind of staying power. No real expression. It's content. It's like, we're gonna make this now, get our money back, hopefully, and on to the next thing, right? Disposable. Boom, boom, boom. Now, no feeling, no real artistic vision. And so when I'm listening to LiveLoveASAP, the depth, man. I mean, Rocky is not saying anything. The bars are very surface, unfortunately, which, as I've said before, is literally the number one thing that has always been a criticism for me with LiveLoveASAP. Had the bars been just a little bit deeper, it would literally be Illmatic level. That's how good this, because the beats are that good, right? And the vocal passion of what Rocky is doing, the vocal depth is that good. But the point is, it's still a phenomenal piece of work. And when you listen to Palace, yeah, Rocky's just sort of riffing to a certain degree, but he is saying some shit. And it's not just what he's saying, it's how he's saying it. The beat just automatically puts you in this, like, almost like, I'm on the top of Everest. I just climbed this mountain. Like, I've just done this incredible, difficult shit, and I did it. I achieved it. Okay? It's not, I was broken, now I'm flossing. That's empty, that's vacuous, that's simple, right? What Rocky is getting at here is something much deeper, and that is the striving, always strive and prosper Rocky. The first song is literally that in audio form. It's about someone who's strived for a very long time and is now at the top, feeling prosperous in the sense that they did it, in some sense, right? That's the beauty of this instrumental, okay? I've struggled and now I feel a load off and I'm feeling euphoric, thank the gods kind of vibe, right? And the way Rocky rhymes with such passion, he just kills it, right? He just kills it. You know what I'm saying? Give it a title, give it a cash. Like, it's just, like, that's the feeling. There's depth there, okay? And that's why the song will remain classic, while everything else before this, like, of his contemporaries around this time period after will fall to the wayside because the depth is not there. And that addictive depth is not there. Lastly, I want to play Demons because, I mean, Clams, man. This beat is so deep to me, yo. Like, you could cry listening to this shit. This shit is beautiful. Beautiful, man. I mean, Clams was on some other shit when he made this beat. Again, what Rocky's saying, even just the chorus alone is some deep shit. But this is what I'm talking about Rocky just being the realest rapper that came out of rap in more than a decade to me, and still is that. Because he wasn't afraid to make sad music, but he wasn't just like, look at me, I'm emo and I'm sad. It was like still that uplifting, like, yeah, okay, I've strived a long time, man. I've been through a lot of shit, but I'm still handsome. I'm still, I'm still out here trying to smile and still trying to do my thing, and really strive for something great. And that's the stuff that genius is made of. You know what I mean? That's the stuff we love. That's the stuff that motivates people, that moves them. You know what I mean? Anyway, I haven't gotten around to the 24. I was gonna say 24 Savage. The 21 Savage new album. I heard the first song. I think it's called Red Rum. It was garbage. So I'll get around to it at some point. But again, it's 2024, man. Like, my time is pretty limited. I want to be making great art. I'm working on this Blood World. It's still going. I got other things too that I'm trying to develop as well. And listen to classics like my LiveLoveASAPs and, my self-titled Cardis, and watch stuff that's actually stimulating. I don't have time for the bullshit. There's too much bullshit out here. So I'm not going to be rushing to give my opinion on some whack shit. Like, you know what I mean? Unless it's really like someone, super well known or whatever, I guess. But yeah, I'll get around to the 24 Savage. Well, look, listen, the nigga's probably what, 30 now or something like that, so he's got to be like 33 Savage or something. You know what I mean? Jesus. All right, y'all. Be good.